Dr. Lovelin, welcome to EdTalk.
Thank you for having me.
So today we are going to be talking about a long-standing debate in the education sphere, which is whether or not to send your child to boarding school for their high school years. So talk to me a little bit about where you stand in this debate.
And first and foremost, I think as a family, you have to sit down and decide what's important to you. If the boarding school is about your faith, and it's something that you want your child to be a part of that faith in that boarding school, then that's part of that decision. If it's just that you want your child to have a different experience and to live overseas, then there's pluses to that, but there's also some things that can be really challenging with that. And then the last piece I think is that if you're looking at boarding school because all of your kids' friends are, then that's a whole nother challenge. And so I think it first boils down to is what's the reason for looking at it.
I'm sure you have a lot of friends and family with boarding school experience and those who don't. And just from an anecdotal standpoint, what's sort of the feedback you received from both sides?
I think it also comes down to pastoral care. If your child is moving 4,000 miles away, what does that support system look like? Because there's going to be hard days for them. I think that for me, where I stand on this debate is, I think that having your family unit close by so that they can support each other when it's difficult, but also to be a part of those exciting moments. When you win a championship and your family's there to be a part of it. When you've been selected for an award and that you can be a part of that conversation, or to go see the school play that some of your friends and community are part of. The high school years can be an amazing time for your student, but also for your family.
A lot of education literature focuses on the early years as being an important developmental stage, which is why you don't really see many kindergarten boarding schools. But what do you think of the importance of the high school years as a developmental phase for a child?
I think one of the mistakes that people make is they look at high school kids and they see the amazing things that they're doing and they think of them as being adults, and they aren't. They're still little kids at times. And so I think of when you look at high schoolers in specific, the daily interactions they have, they're constantly code switching. They're going between a math class to a time where they're communicating with friends, where they're telling jokes, to a choir rehearsal. Constantly throughout the day, they are adjusting who they are 4, 5, 6, 10 times a day, and it's really tiring. And so, but if you're in that world with them, you can help them.
There's this notion of helicopter parenting, the idea that a parent can actually become too involved in a child's life. So what would you say to parents who are kind of bordering on that line, and what advice would you give them?
Yeah, and I would say it's actually advice to schools and parents. So I think that one thing is that having parents around the school is a good thing. It's a matter of then making sure that there's protocols with how we communicate and making sure that the students have the opportunity to own their education. To me, we work really hard with our parent community around communication, that when there's a challenge, because there will be at times, that there's appropriate ways to handle it. And so to me, I welcome the helicopter parent because they want to be a part of the school. And the key for me is to find areas in which they can be a part of our school and to be an active part of our community.
Yeah, so much is put into the relationship between student and school and teacher, and rightfully so, but the relationship between the school and the parent is actually something arguably just as important.
Yeah, parents are as important as everybody else in the community. And it takes everybody working together in a positive way to create a really incredible experience for kids.
I did want to talk about college prep because that's sort of a big thing with boarding schools, right? Just to play devil's advocate for a second.
Sure.
I suppose some could argue that boarding school prepares students for the college experience earlier. And what would you say to something like that?
High school life and adolescent life through those years of 14 through 18, there's a ton coming at kids. When a 14-year-old moves across the country, they haven't worked through some of those challenges with their family yet. So again, for me, unless there's a huge compelling reason from a family to go to a boarding school, I don't see the extreme benefit from it.
Great stuff, Dr. Lovelin, and thank you so much for coming on EdTalk.
All right, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.